The pyramids of Egypt. Wonders of the world, jaw-dropping feats of architecture and ancient engineering. But did you know there are actually over 100 of them? Some believe there are over 118, but others say there could be as many as 135. Most of them are piles of rubble and in very poor condition nowadays, but there are still a decent chunk of them that are amazing to look at and view, or they've been documented just enough for us to look at photos and judge them. And that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. I, an archaeologist and recovering Egyptologist, am going to go through 28 pyramids. Okay, and we're gonna judge them all. We're doing a ranking video, my friends. We're going to go in a chronological order from the very first iteration and work our way through the dynasties to see which pyramid comes out on top. Will it be the Great Pyramid of Khufu? Does the name give away how spectacular it is and its probable ranking? Stay tuned to probably be proven correct. Just as a note, we'll only be sticking to the pyramids made for pharaohs. No offense to the queens, but if we got them involved, we'd probably be here all night, and I'm probably already going to be here for hours. Some further housekeeping into my ranking. When possible, I will be including other buildings in the complexes of these pyramids, but not all of them because there are simply too many things at some sites and not enough things at others, and I do want to make this as objective as possible. It's not going to be objective at all. What are we even saying? It's a ranking video. It is completely my opinion. But we're gonna go through them all and let me know which one you think should take the top spot in the comments at the end of the video. All right, I've got my list of pyramids up here. So first up we have the Djoser Pyramid at Saqqara, the OG step pyramid, the granddaddy of all pyramids, if you will, built by the pharaoh Djoser of the 3rd dynasty by the architect Imhotep. This is a much less scary Imhotep than the 1999 film The Mummy, though I'm so excited for number 4. What's cool about step pyramids is ultimately the genius simplicity of it all. Before pyramids, kings were buried in mastaba tombs, which were these rectangular structures, and so Imhotep was essentially like, what would happen if we stacked a bunch of mastaba tombs on top of each other and made them progressively smaller? And boom, you've got a pyramid. You might think, yeah, okay, decent for a first try, but wait, let's have a look inside and around the complex. We've got some amazing hieroglyphs and this beautiful blue faience inlays at times. There are temples, wow, massive enclosure walls, an entrance colonnade, and not to mention a Heb-Sed court. Now, a Heb-Sed court is to give the king a space to continue performing this Heb-Sed festival after he died, and this festival was a ceremony celebrated after a pharaoh ruled for 30 years and then every 3 or 4 years after that. So you had to rule a very long time to have this honor bestowed upon you. It celebrated the continued rule of the pharaoh and to essentially reassert their authority. All right, some stats for you guys. It was built in 2670 BCE, so a very, very long time ago. It's about 60 meters high. The base 120 meters by 109 meters. That's pretty tall. It's a very good first effort. And we're ranking this from 1 to 10. You know, I gotta give it to Imhotep and Djoser. Very strong out the gate. It's really cool. It's just so quintessentially old ancient Egypt, and without this, we wouldn't have any of the other ones, not to mention all this detail. Djoser was like, I'm gonna build a pyramid, but then I'm gonna actually build the coolest pyramid that everyone else is gonna have to live up to. He done good. So I'm gonna give him, honestly, it's not a smooth-sided pyramid, so he's gotta be docked a little bit there, but because of his innovation, he's gotta at least have an 8. At least an 8. All right, number 2, that's gonna be a hard one to beat because we got an 8 right out of the gate. We have the Step Pyramid of Sekhmet, otherwise known as the Buried Pyramid. Ooh, the Buried Pyramid. Oh, that's a great name. Pardon me, Sekhmet, not Sekhmet. Sekhmet is the fierce, ferocious lioness goddess. Don't get them confused. This one is an unfinished 7-step pyramid constructed for the second king of the 3rd dynasty, Sekhmet. Ooh, 7 steps. Trying to one-up Djoser, I see, because Djoser only had 6 steps. I see where this trend is going. He said, hold my beer. Let's make it a little bit higher. Too bad it was never finished, or else we could have had something. This pyramid was constructed in circa 2686 to 2613 BCE and discovered in the 1950s. It's definitely seen better days, but let's see what's behind the curtain. There's an unfinished and undecorated burial chamber inside, but there was an alabaster sarcophagus cut from a single block, which I think is rather impressive. Nothing was found inside. That is typical of most tombs and pyramids though, so that is not a point against it. Apparently the name Imhotep does appear on a section of the complex's enclosure wall, but they're not sure if this is the same Imhotep as the previous one. But it is similar in style, so maybe Imhotep was like, let's try again. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Or maybe it's like a school of Imhotep, like with the Renaissance painters, where everything kind of looks the same and sometimes they would sign the names of the actual maestro himself. It does look very worse for wear. I can see why it's called the buried pyramid. It's a little sad. Ooh, there was another wooden sarcophagus with the remains of a 2-year-old child and gold leaf fragments in a tomb found under the southern side. Mysterious. Okay, how tall are we talking? In its present state, it's only about 2.3 meters or 8 feet tall. That's literally just singular mastaba height, so nothing to write home about. The foundations are uneven though, so the builders tried to level it out by building terraces, and some of those reach up to 10 meters high, so that's something, at least. If it was ever finished, it would have been taller than Djoser's pyramid at 70 meters or 230 feet high. So there was potential here. I'm not giving up on it yet. What does the substructure and the other stuff look like? Oh, there's a row of 136 unfinished galleries, that's pretty damn impressive. The Great Pyramid does not have those. I'll tell you that. There were also some gold bracelets found, and mason lines and graffiti on an inner limestone wall. We love graffiti, we love mason lines that prove that real humans made the pyramids. I am gonna have to dock it. Obviously we can't just give marks for potential, even though we always want to. We're gonna go with a 4 because I feel like a 5, you need more height, you need more visible for me to actually go, yep, that's a pyramid, rather than just a big mound of blocks. Solid 4 for this one. Okay, next up we have the Layer Pyramid, also known as the maybe Pyramid of Kaaba. I love that it's called the Layer Pyramid. It makes it feel like a cake. In Arabic, it's actually called Rubble Hill Pyramid, and that is a much more appropriate name for it if we're being honest with ourselves here. We're still in the 3rd dynasty here, and it's thought to have been built for King Kaaba. Again, we have that similar design to the buried pyramid, which makes sense as we're in a similar time period. No artifacts found, no trace of burial. Was this even used to bury the king, or was this abandoned? Maybe the king died prematurely? We do have some substructures as well, but the pyramid is currently in a restricted military zone, so no excavations have taken place there in many a decade. That also means it's difficult to get any good photos of it for accurate judging. Can't even get proper dimensions because it's all sanded up too, so the best we've got is there's a square base about 84 meters long, which makes it slightly smaller than our previous 2 contenders, which makes sense as it's believed that this was only going to be about 5 steps high, so about 45 meters tall. We only have 2 steps though in its current state, so it sits at 17 meters high today. No cladding evidence was found, which does curry favor to it being unfinished. There's also no sarcophagus either, big clue there. But they did find mud bricks that could have been used as a construction ramp. Oh, we like that. It's a pile of rubble. There's no photos. That looks like a hill to me. I don't want to be too unfair because obviously we don't have access to it. We don't have very many photos. I'm gonna give it a 3 because it still looks like, okay, this was meant to be a pyramid. Okay, let's leave the 3rd dynasty behind and move into the 4th dynasty with our 4th pyramid. We have finally made it to Senusret, the first king of the 4th dynasty, the man who thought pyramids were so nice, he made them thrice. And I have been waiting years to say that pun on YouTube. Starting off strong, we have his first pyramid at Meidum. This is definitely one of the most uniquely shaped pyramids in this collection. I would say it's more of a square than the rest of them. But that's what I love so much about the early phases of the pyramids. We get to see the experimentation, the understanding of the architectural stability, and building technology. It's even got this crazy high platform that it's sitting on. What a show it's giving right off the bat, and we haven't even gotten a look inside yet. This is Egypt's first straight-sided pyramid, though it is partially collapsed. Fun fact about this one, because of its appearance, it's actually called the false pyramid in Egyptian Arabic. The original pyramid was actually covered in a limestone casing that would have made it a quote-unquote true pyramid though, at least, but hopefully no one was making fun of Senusret while it was being built. This looks very much like a trust the process type of pyramid. This one, though, does have a lot of construction errors. Firstly, the outer layer was founded on sand, while the inner ones were on rock. That's instability, if I ever did see. There were also a few other design flaws that then led to what looks like a catastrophic collapse while it was still under construction. Yeah, not good, guys. We don't want a pyramid caving in on a king who's supposed to rest there for an eternity. The burial chamber was also never completed, so this never housed a pharaoh. I do really like that there are wooden supports still in place, so archaeologically, that does give it more points because we love to see how the sausage gets made. This is also quite a steep pyramid. Wow, 54 degrees, which we'll see is important when we get to the other pyramids built by Senusret. In its current state, it's at 65 meters high or 213 feet tall. There is a descending passage, and apparently if it was ever finished, it would have had the same proportions as the Great Pyramid. Oof, has a lot going for it there. You know what? It is quite imposing. It is on this amazing block. I'm gonna have to rate it quite high just because it's really cool. I'm gonna give this one a solid 5 because you can see it's a giant building. It's meant for something, but there were a lot of structural issues and we weren't able to finish it. And poor Senusret had to go and build 2 whole more pyramids. I don't think Senusret would have given this any more than a 6, and I'm gonna honor his wishes and just leave it at that. But let's move on to his next pyramid, the Bent Pyramid. I'll give you guys 3 guesses as to why it's called that. I absolutely adore this pyramid. You can see the course correction and lessons learned while building it, and I love its dark color. It's very unique, very setting itself apart from the herd. And this is what I love about Senusret, because he was just having the best time. The Bent Pyramid is located in Dashur, about 40 kilometers south of Cairo. It's also built by Senusret, as we said, and we can see a steep angle, that 54-degree angle at the beginning that we have at Meidum, but then, quickly, the builders realized their potential mistake and course corrected it to a shallower 43-degree angle once they got to about 47 meters high. You can't really take it down and start from scratch all over again, can you? So I guess you just gotta pivot and make lemonade out of these lemons. So here we see the official change from a step pyramid into a smooth-sided pyramid. Technology is advancing, and the ancient Egyptians are figuring out this whole pyramid building thing a lot more. It has been suggested that due to the steep angle, the pyramid may have started to show signs of instability while it was being constructed, which would make the builders pause and rethink and then change the angle to prevent collapse, like at Meidum. Another theory is that they changed the angle to finish it faster because Senusret was nearing his death and time was of the essence. But who knows? Maybe he wanted it this way. Maybe this was another design that they were experimenting with until they hit the jackpot at Giza. So we've got the second pyramid of Senusret, and we really have to give him a big chunk of credit when it comes to trial and error in pyramid building and development. And his son was Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid, so you can only imagine the household influence here. This whole striving for perfection and the pinnacle to tall, pointy tombs. Oh, it's just so cool! I love it. Now this shift from steps to slant is very interesting. Lots of theories abound as to why this change came about, like maybe royal tombs were no longer considered a staircase to the stars. How romantic. And instead, they were maybe more of a solar cult thing, or a symbolic representation of the primeval mound from which all life sprang. We could wax poetic and philosophize all we want about the reasons why, but that is not what this video is about. It's about being shallow and judging decisions made over 4,000 years ago for no real academic purpose other than our own enjoyment. The bent pyramid is also special because its outer polished limestone casing is actually largely intact, and that is thanks to the angle of which it was built. It's just too steep, and so stone robbery was too dangerous. And I love that. This whole pyramid is just steeped in potential too. If it was finished at its 54-degree incline, it would have been 129.4 meters high, and would have been the third highest pyramid in the world. But alas, they had to reduce the angle for safety reasons, and we don't want anyone, risking their lives just for a hunk of stone. We do have some inner chambers, but no sign of burial. There is a valley temple and even a satellite pyramid, but we're not going to be getting into that today, as that will skew my already biased opinions about this pyramid and ratings just even more. This is the first geometrically true pyramid in the world though, so it needs to be given at least a decent score, and I'm gonna put it up there with Sahure. I'm gonna give it an 8. I know there are mistakes in it. I know it's bent for a reason. I know it's still working on some stuff, but it is very significant to history, it's very cool, and it's got its limestone casing, and that is poof, points, points, points. All right, we have made it to the third and final pyramid of Senusret II. This is the Red Pyramid, also known as the North Pyramid. It's the largest of the pyramids at Dashur, and it is the third largest pyramid in general after those of Khufu and Khafre. It is also believed to be Egypt's first successful true smooth-sided pyramid, so that's definitely got to give it some points. It's called the Red Pyramid because of this reddish hue of the limestone that was used to build it, but of course it was never meant to be red, as it would have originally had that white Tura limestone casing like many of the other pyramids. This of course was stripped away over time for other building projects because it wasn't as steep and dangerous as the Bent Pyramid. But there are a few white blocks left at the base, so we can get a little imagination going here. This pyramid was built again in the early 2500s BCE and has the same shallow 43-degree angle that we see at the top of the Bent Pyramid. Because of this angle, it does look quite squat, doesn't it? It feels as if I can just squish it with my fingies. It's like a bullfrog. I don't know why, but when I look at it, I think of a bullfrog, the bullfrog of pyramids. I don't want to squish bullfrogs, but I just want to it's just like a little tiny one, a little squat buddy. If we take into account the idea that this design is the outcome of multiple engineering crises that Senusret had with the Bent Pyramid and the pyramid at Meidum, I say well done on getting it right. This right here is the epitome of if at first you don't succeed, try again. We are at 105 meters, which is pretty spectacular, even though it appears quite squat. We've also got some inner chambers. Ooh, that's a little corbelled roof, like the Great Pyramid also has. We love to see that. And a passage potentially used to fool tomb robbers. Ooh, there's lots of oohs for this one. There's even evidence of tomb robbers potentially weaseling their way in. Okay, what are we giving this one? It is technically Egypt's first true smooth-sided pyramid. It looks great. We've got some of the limestone blocks still. That corbelled roof is fantastic. You know what? I'm going to amend my previous ranking. I'm going to give the Bent Pyramid a 7. I know. And we're going to give this one an 8 because it is an improvement. It should be up there with the Saqqara Pyramid. That's my new official rating. Pyramid number 7. Can you believe we've already done 6 pyramids and we're just now getting to the Great Pyramid of Giza? Crazy. Good things really do take time. But here we are, the pièce de résistance, as some people would say, the greatest ever, the GOAT, the tomb of the pharaoh Khufu or Cheops of the 4th dynasty, the largest ever Egyptian pyramid. Khufu saw his dad Senusret's 3 attempts at pyramids, learned a lot, and then said, hold my beer. 26 years to build, on both wonders of the world lists, the quintessential pyramid that everyone thinks of when you mention the pyramids, and the one that gets all of the alien and ancient astronaut theorists in a tizzy. I don't know how much more I can say about this pyramid that I haven't already said. I've got at least maybe 3 or 4 videos on it by now. I'll link all of those in the description for you. But it was originally 146.6 meters high, or 481 feet. It was the world's tallest man-made structure for over 3,800 years. There are 2.3 million blocks. It weighs 6 million tons. It really is that great. Inside we have 3 official chambers, and there's the corbelled ceiling that is oh so famous. It's actually quite breathtaking to climb up into it if you've ever done it. Definitely worth the cramped, very claustrophobic climb up if you can muster it. I will have to say though, it's not as pretty inside as our first pyramid at Saqqara. To be honest, it's pretty bland inside with nothing but that big granite sarcophagus. My theory is that Khufu was probably going for shock and awe for spectators over his own comfort or design tastes. Or maybe he just had no design taste, no taste at all. He just wanted big. Maybe he had something he needed to compensate for. But I kind of get it. You're gonna be dead. You won't be seeing this stuff. Other people will, and you gotta give them something to talk about. And that's why we do it on the outside, because no one, in theory, is supposed to be going inside the pyramids. There are also satellite pyramids and 5 buried solar barks, which, to be honest, quite the flex. It's the Great Pyramid. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to tell you. You can go inside it. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's a mystery. It's a masterpiece, and people are still talking about it. I feel like every time I talk to someone at a pub and I tell them I'm an archaeologist, the first thing out their mouth is like, oh, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the Great Pyramids recently. It's like men with the Roman Empire. There's always someone thinking about the Great Pyramid. It's just it. I have to give it a 10. I have no notes. It is what it is. There are some imperfections, but because of the way it has imprinted onto our cultural zeitgeist throughout all of the millennia, you can't really top it, can you? 10-10 across the board for the Great Pyramid of Giza. So following up from Khufu's Great Pyramid, which, let's be honest, is one big set of shoes to fill, we have the Pyramid of Djedefre. And unfortunately, it is now mostly ruins. But it is Egypt's northernmost pyramid, so that's something. Recent excavations suggest that it was finished at least more than halfway, though some say it was completed, but it is in its current state due to it being used as a quarry and military base during the Roman period, which is just bad luck, really. It's roughly the same size of the Pyramid of Menkaure, who we will be getting to soon. The exterior was thought to have been clad in limestone and polished granite. Oh, we do love a little mix-up here. The limestone's supposed to be on the outside. Some patterning, perhaps, as well, with the 2 stones. The ancient name for this pyramid was Djedefre's Starry Sky, so that might hint at the design that they were going after. I do like that. It's pretty. It's got a little bit of some pizzazz to it. Ooh. Djedefre also didn't quite follow Khufu's designs in regards to his chambers. He put them below instead of inside like we have at the Great Pyramid. The pyramid was also built over a natural mound, which in my opinion is cheating, even though I know most of them were built over a mound, but still. I get it, work smarter, not harder, especially if you need a mound to go under the pyramid for your chambers and tunnels. I will say though that making the tunnels under the pyramid before building it was very savvy and efficient, as then you don't have to worry about tunneling, you know, anywhere inside the pyramid or any structural complications with the integrity of the pyramid itself. In all fairness, because other pyramids and sun temples were built over natural mounds, I can't really dock it points for that, so we're just like letting you have that fact. It shortens the work, and the mound itself may be symbolic of the whole primeval mound of Egyptian creation myths. So I can't be too harsh, but I am gonna be a little harsh because Djedefre was the son and successor of Khufu, and to me, it looks like he tried to follow in Daddy's footsteps, but wasn't as ambitious, and he cracked under the pressure, and then he took some shortcuts. We have what Wikipedia calls the ruined stub of Djedefre's pyramid. There aren't a lot of photos. I do like the speckled pattern. I like the star idea. We are trying for something here. We're changing up the complications of the inner chambers inside the pyramid going underground. I'm gonna give it a 6. It should be a 5, but because of the pattern of the different stones and it being called the Starry Sky, we do need to recognize that he's trying something new. There's a little bit more effort into it, and we need to respect it. I respect it. We're gonna give it a 6. We're bumping it up because it's a little bit more than your box standard pyramid, even if it is ruined and it just fell on some hard times because of the Romans. And Haven't we all fallen on hard times at one point because of the Romans? Alrighty, back to Giza we go with the Pyramid of Khafre, another son of Khufu, the second largest and the second tallest of all pyramids in Egypt. This is another little tricky one by a son of Khufu. It only looks bigger than Khufu's pyramid because it was built on higher ground, about 10 meters higher than Khufu, so it's got this clever little optical illusion. I know that I took points away from Djedefre for building on a mound, but I might give Khafre some points because he did it so close to his father's pyramid, and that takes gall. Khafre's pyramid is also the only one of the three here at Giza that still has some of that sparkly white cladding on the top of it. So that's another point to Khafre. It's also a bit steeper in terms of the slope at a 53-degree angle, whereas Khufu's is only 51 degrees. It's very closely aligned to the cardinal directions, as is Khufu's, which of course brings up the theory that the builders of the Old Kingdom used their astronomical knowledge and had very advanced surveying methods to make sure this orientation was spot on. Which then of course invites all the conspiracy theorists into the chat. Even though the casing is still intact at the top, the pyramidion and part of the apex are missing. But this is me just splitting hairs here at this point because it is the only one in the area with that limestone up top there. Belzoni left some graffiti in there because of course he did. Don't do that today, please. At all, ever. This pyramid, like all of them, was robbed, so there's not much inside. There was just an open sarcophagus and a broken lid on the floor that was found when Belzoni went inside in 1818. We've got some passageways that don't go up like in Khufu's, but there are two entrances that lead to the burial chamber. It's a very nice, clean, and bright burial chamber compared to Khufu's dark granite one. I don't know, makes it a tad more inviting, in my honest opinion. Oof, and yes, we've got that gabled roof. I love it. And there are also two small rectangular holes in the walls that are reminiscent of the air shafts found in the Great Pyramid burial chambers. Okay, so original height was 143.5 meters tall, so about 471 feet, very similar to Khufu's, just a little smaller. It is currently at 136 meters though. What are we gonna give it? We can't give it a 10. It is not the Great Pyramid. Belzoni graffitied it, but that's not the pyramid's fault, so we can't daunt that. I do like the burial chamber with that ceiling. It's giving millennial minimalism, millennial gray. We're gonna give it a 9. It's just a little bit, you know, it's great, but it's not Great Pyramid great. So, solid 9. Moving on. Yes, we are at the third and smallest pyramid at Giza, the Pyramid of Menkaure. It would have originally been only 65.5 meters high, so much shorter than the other two pyramids at Giza. Today it is at 61 meters high, which isn't that much shrinkage though, so that's very good on him. Let's see here how it compares to its two larger predecessors. It has a descending passage to the burial chamber like Khafre's. It's theorized that it was originally planned to be smaller. What? Why was that? Why was it bigger, Menkaure? Were you like succumbing to peer pressure? Was this fragile masculinity? Why didn't you just stick at the size you wanted it to be? Clearly that's a question we'll never know the answer to. We've got more descending passages. Excellent. Again, this is a very pyramid-y pyramid, is the best way I can say it. There's not much that I can say to the Pyramid of Menkaure. It's part of those three perfect ones that we all imagine when we think of ancient Egypt. I do have a soft spot for Menkaure's pyramid though, because his basalt stone sarcophagus was discovered in 1837, and it was this beautiful shiny thing with these fantastic carvings on it with a palace facade. But the discoverers, of course, didn't leave it in Egypt. They loaded it onto a boat bound for England, and then it sank off the coast of Spain. So we don't have it anymore. No one's gone down to get it. No one knows where exactly it is, and it still keeps me up at night. There is a red granite and white limestone casing, which we still have a decent amount of around the base, which is very lovely to see. Given all that information, it is quite dinky. It's a dinky little pyramid, but I've been inside it and it's cute. I'm gonna give the Pyramid of Menkaure a 5. a solid 5. This is your box standard pyramid. Not too ambitious, not too large, not too small. It's just right. Whew. Okay, we are now moving out of the 4th dynasty into the 5th dynasty with the Pyramid of Userkaf. We are circa 2490 BCE, the founding of the 5th dynasty. This pyramid is back at Sahure, and it looks like a crumbling chocolate chip cookie. No offense to Userkaf, of course, that's just how the cookie crumbles. Locally, it's known as El Haram El Maharbish, which translates to the heap of stone. So at least the locals and we're on the same page here. It was constructed around a rubble core and part of a larger complex with all the things you would expect, like a mortuary temple and offering chapels, etc., etc. This dynasty starts to shake things up a bit with burial rites for kings. We have this shift back to Saqqara. The architecture here is a little different. For example, it's oriented on a north-south axis instead of the traditional east-west axis from the 4th dynasty. But we don't have time to really go into that today. The pyramid would have originally been about 49 meters high or 161 feet, which is much smaller than the behemoths that we have at Giza. Trouble in the kingdom, perhaps? The rubble core of this pyramid is made from roughly hewn local limestone blocks, which would have saved a lot of labor in comparison to the much more precisely cut interiors of the 4th dynasty pyramids. But this one isn't doing so hot, so maybe that wasn't for the best. I will say it wasn't all Userkaf's fault, as his pyramid was the victim of a lot of stone robbery throughout the millennia, and then once the loose core was exposed, you can see it's just deteriorated much more quickly than the older pyramids. What's going on underneath now? Oh, okay, we've got a gabled ceiling, a few chambers, excellent. But again, they're underneath instead of inside the pyramid. They were built before the pyramid's construction, which again is the smart move. And there are fragments of a black basalt sarcophagus found in a canopic chest. Oh, yet more proof that these were used for burials. What I think is really fun about this pyramid is that it was restored under the 4th son of Ramses II, King Weset, who is actually the first attributed Egyptologist. So this was around the 1200s BCE, which is so cool. I need to do a video on that guy. Okay, what do I give the cookie? The crumbling cookie. It does look like a pyramid. I'll give it that. It still kept its shape. There's some really nice stones around it. We've got that black basalt around there. That's a 4. I'm gonna give the cookie a 4. Here we have the Pyramid of Sahure, which does indeed look much better than poor Userkaf's one, even though it too is quite bubbly looking. Oh wow, I love these columns, even though I know that they do not belong to the pyramid itself, but to the complex. So scoring wise, they may have swayed me a bit, but I'm going to try and remain impartial. Sahure is also a 5th dynasty king, and his design and layout for the whole pyramid complex was then adopted by the kings in the 5th and 6th dynasties. So he was definitely a trendsetter of his day. We also have a new location near Abu Sir, and this is the first pyramid in the region. We're seeing a more demure shift here, a downsizing with the construction, but I would say the decorations are getting better. There was definitely a shift of ideals and values, and I would admit that I'm here for this. The whole complex has an estimated 10,000 meters squared of relief carvings. Like, excuse me? What a diva with his interior decorating tastes. And I mean, wow, we've even got some small paint on a few. I have no notes. For some comparison with this decoration, Sahure's temple had 370 running meters of relief decoration, while Khufu's Great Pyramid only had 100 running meters in the temple, not in the pyramid itself, obviously. There's nothing in Khufu's pyramid. This is a very different shift in what someone wanted in their pyramid. Khufu wanted big, grandiose, and Sahure wanted detail and beauty. And I respect it. So let's look at the pyramid itself now. We've got limestone blocks stuck together with mud mortar. There would have been that white Tura limestone casing that we all know and love. It would have been approximately 48 meters high. Unfortunately, the internal structures did fall victim to stone thieves, so accurate reconstruction in there is just impossible. There are some pieces of basalt that might belong to Sahure's sarcophagus, but those are the only remains of the burial to have been found. 5 of these 6 core steps remain, which is pretty good for a pyramid in ruin. And what's interesting about this one is that it was constructed differently from all of the other preceding pyramids. The outer faces were framed with these massive, roughly dressed gray limestone blocks, and the inner chambers were framed similarly with smaller blocks. Then the core between these 2 frames was packed with rubble, like limestone chips and bits of pottery and sand, which was less time consuming and used fewer resources. But at the end of the day, it was the lazy way and it made it unstable. The only thing that was constructed well and with quality materials was the outer casing with some top grade limestone. Talk about don't look a gift horse in the mouth with this one. The architects also made an error with the base, meaning that this pyramid is not square, and that's gonna have to dock it some points. You need a square pyramid. That's the whole point. It needs to be pointy and it needs to be square. I do love the framing. I love the setting, the whole temple in front with the columns. I know we're not judging that, but it does add to that romanticized Egyptian pyramid ruin vibe that we have going on with this pyramid. The decorations are beautiful. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I know it's not the typical pyramid with your red pyramid. It is in ruins, it's crumbling, but it has a whole bunch of decorations. It changed the game when we're talking about pyramid construction within these next 2 dynasties, even though maybe not for the best, but because of its innovation and its decoration, it gets a 5. Staying in Abusir, we have the Pyramid of Neferirkare. This is the tallest and highest situated structure in the Abusir necropolis. Of course, as a 5th dynasty pyramid, it's smaller, and we have another one of those very standardized templates for the whole complex, now that they've got the formula to get this just right. But we do have intricate carving relief decorations to make up for the size. That being said, Neferirkare's main pyramid did actually deviate from this new standardization and built a step pyramid that was then encased in a second step pyramid that was then altered to convert it to a true pyramid. A pyramid onion, you might say. Very many layers to this pyramid. The king did die before it was completed, unfortunately, so work had to be completed by his successors. I don't think the pyramid was ever totally finished, though. We have some cheaper material as well in this pyramid, but at its fully projected height, it would have reached about 72 meters high, which is a nice step up from our previous one we just talked about. Because of the whole dying thing before it was done, the monument is missing its valley temple, its causeway, etc., so it's a good thing we're not judging those today. The pharaoh Nyuserre actually co-opted the ones that were being built for Neferirkare, which is a savage move. Looking at it, this pyramid slightly resembles the texture of a Biscoff cookie. Is that offensive? I think those cookies are delicious, so it could be a compliment. You can see that step pyramid underneath the rubble there, which is pretty cool. And I like that Neferirkare added a little vintage flair to his monument with a nod back to the first pyramids. The conversion to a true pyramid afterwards is interesting. I wonder why that was done. It did add about 10 meters to the height of the pyramid, which is always a plus, but I do hope that it wasn't because Neferirkare succumbed to peer pressure. Maybe he just liked a step pyramid and then everyone was like, that's so many thousands of years ago, or hundreds of years ago, pardon me, we're not in the thousands yet. We do have a substructure with a beautiful gabled limestone ceiling. The descending corridor is in the middle of the north face, but unfortunately the substructure is very badly damaged. Thieves ransacked all of the chambers for the limestone, so we can't actually reconstruct them very well, and there was a collapse of some limestone beams that have covered the burial chamber completely. We can't even do any extensive excavation because of this damage. It's just way too dangerous to go inside. There are no traces of human remains, burial equipment, or a sarcophagus. So it's currently standing at 47, 48 meters high. I'm gonna have to give this one it does just kind of look like a mound with like paws, like bumps. I'm gonna give it a 4. Just a 4, because we can't get inside. I can't make any proper judgments on that side of things. It's just a crumbly mound cookie. Okay, we are at the Pyramid of Neferirkare, or the Pyramid of Neferefre. This is an unfinished pyramid to another 5th dynasty pharaoh, and it is the 3rd and final one to be built in Abu Sir along what is this cute diagonal line that connects all 3 of them and lines up with Heliopolis. That's some very fun planning there. We have another early death to blame for the incompleteness of this pyramid, unfortunately. It was then hastily converted into a square mastaba, as we can see, obviously, or a primeval mound, and a lot of the other structures that are supposed to go in this whole complex were improvised while the mummification process was being undertaken. There is another structure called the Sanctuary of the Knife, which is such an epic name that I wish we were also judging it and all the other bits, but I'm just gonna have to let this one go, and it's gonna haunt me. So we only have one step of this pyramid, but we can learn a lot about it. We have a frame of gray limestone and a rubble fill of limestone chips, sand, pottery, and clay. The single step is about 7 meters high and was enclosed by roughly dressed fine white Tura limestone at a very steep incline of 78 degrees. Above the burial chamber ceiling, there is also a flat roof terrace that was covered in a thin layer of gravel. Again, we can see that the Abu Sir pyramids were constructed very differently than those preceding it. It was less time consuming and used fewer resources, but they were quite carelessly built and unstable, so that means only the outer casing was built with that nice limestone. This, of course, was the first to go and get pillaged and therefore exposed all of the crappy stuff on the inside, which then led to the poor state that we see them in today. All right, substructure. The substructure was accessed slightly above ground level, and there's a cool security measure of a big red granite interlocking jaw-like barrier that hasn't been identified in any other building, which is pretty cool. And it maybe worked? Despite evidence of stone thieves, remnants of the burial have actually been preserved here. There were fragments of a red granite sarcophagus, pieces of 4 alabaster canopic jars, alabaster sacrificial offering containers, and a partial mummy. Yes, this is our first pyramid where a pharaoh's mummy was discovered. There was also enough to determine that Neferirkare was about 20 to 23 years old when he died, which is very young and makes the whole conversion into a mastaba very understandable. To the benefit of Neferirkare, given its poor condition and it's not looking very much like a pyramid, it did discourage tomb robbers from looking into this mastaba pyramid, and it allowed it to remain one of the best preserved complexes in the Old Kingdom. So we gotta give that some points. Oh, but it does look, oh, it's so sad. I'm gonna have to give it a 2. It's very square, flat, boring. It could look like just a big house, in my opinion. Fear it's only going to be downhill from here. Still staying in Abu Sir, but no longer in that line up to Heliopolis, we have the Pyramid of Nyuserre. This guy had it rough. His dad, Neferirkare, and his brother, Neferefre, both had unfinished monuments when they died, and he still had to try and build his own. Oh lord, and his mother's. What a series of unfortunate events for him there. This all would have come at quite a cost, so that means he had to be economical when it came to his own pyramid and monuments. To stay on the frugal side of things, Nyuserre deviated from this fun diagonal line and decided to stick his pyramid between Neferirkare and Sahure. It was a bit cramped, but hey, it worked, and he got to stay close to his family. What a king of compromise. I do hope that there was no love lost between himself and his deceased family members for all that building he had to do. This pyramid is a stepped core like we've seen before, and it was encased in Tura limestone. As we've seen, this means that once the stone thieves left, the inner core was exposed to the elements and, well, it hasn't fared very well, like the other ones. It would have nearly been 52 meters high if it was in perfect condition. The substructure is quite dangerous to enter because there's a risk of cave-ins. No thank you. Nyuserre reigned for about 30 years, but his pyramid is still smaller than his father's, Neferirkare. He was being frugal, and I can't blame him, but I do wish he wasn't so cramped and had to, squeeze his stuff into such a confined space. We have the typical 5th dynasty framing and rubble fill. 7 steps though, which is chic. Like all other Abusir pyramids, the limestone casing was all looted, and with this one, the inner chambers were all ransacked. Substructure-wise, it was built to mimic the typical 5th dynasty style with this nice lining of limestone, which of course, again, stolen by stone thieves. And again, that means we can't actually reconstruct it, but there are reports of these very nice limestone beams that we've been seeing from the Abusir pyramids. There's no evidence of interior decoration, no sarcophagus, and no burial equipment. Nyuserre was the last king to build his tomb here, and I can see why. Definitely exhausted all the resources here, and thankfully no more were constructed in this area because looks like it turned out to be a hotbed for looting stone. Okay, giving it a number, it is small and dinky. We do have these massive limestone blocks, but there is the issue of the cave-in. We're gonna go with a solid 3 for Nyuserre, and if it ever does have a cave-in, we'll have to bring that down to a 2, but we're hoping for no cave-ins. We are now finally moving away from Abusir, and we are in South Saqqara with the pyramid of Djedkare-Isesi. We're still in the 5th dynasty, and this pyramid is locally known as the Sentinel Pyramid. I like it. This pyramid's valley temple is currently buried underneath modern-day Saqqara, so very good thing that I'm not judging that today. It has a 6-stepped core made of limestone and mortar, and is encased again in Tura limestone. When it was encased, it would have reached 52.2 meters high. We are, of course, missing the casing, and we're also missing the top 3 steps of the core. So that means today it is only 24 meters tall. But it's still got that moundy pyramid shape, so that's something. We do have stuff inside this pyramid, which is always exciting. Inside the substructure, they found a mummy who they presume is Djedkare-Isesi. They did do some carbon dating to the remains, and it came out to about 2886 to 2507 BCE, so a little bit old, but we hold out hope. Other than that, though, the substructure has been badly damaged by stone thieves. A trend, if I ever saw one. Oof, it's quite a spooky entrance to the substructure, don't you think? It's a wonky picture, but I still get the heebie-jeebies just looking at this. Normally, entrances to substructures are within the face of the pyramid, but this one is different as you enter it under the pavement of the courtyard. Inside the substructure, archaeologists found remains of broken vessels that would have been used in funerary rituals, again, proving to all the ancient astronaut theorists that these were indeed tombs. In the burial chamber, there was a basalt sarcophagus, and that mummy that was found was a man thought to be in his 50s. And of course, more stone thieves ruined the inside again. So, spooky entrance definitely knocks it down a peg in my book because I wouldn't want to go inside. I'm gonna have to give Djedkare-Isesi, we'll give him a 4 because of the funerary materials inside, but I'm not going any higher than that. Oh, the Pyramid of Unas. I have a soft spot for the Pyramid of Unas. Unas is the 9th and final king of the 5th dynasty, and he has the smallest Old Kingdom pyramid. But it's not size that matters here. It's what's inside. I'll show you in a second. It's very cool. Unas built his pyramid in North Saqqara, not far from the OG pyramid of Djoser. And starting from the outside, we can see there's some great evidence of the limestone casing still on the bottom here. And boy, is that smooth. We've got a 6-stepped core, classic, and it would have been 43 meters high upon completion, so very small in comparison to some of the ones that we've already seen. Like all 5th dynasty pyramids, Unas's pyramid is also ruined due to them using poor building materials and them having that unstable core. Boy, am I gonna be glad to leave the 5th dynasty after this. These, in my opinion, were all IKEA versions of pyramids with particle board inside instead of just using real wood throughout, and it shows. This is how our IKEA furniture is going to age, and it depresses me. Now going inside is where things get really cool. So we have a sarcophagus made from greywack instead of the typical basalt, and only small portions of a mummy were found, like the right arm, skull, and shin bone. Object-wise, there are 2 wooden handles of 2 knives that were used during mummification. But okay, I've teased this for too long. Inside the Pyramid of Unas, we have the pyramid texts. This is a new innovation, and it's the first time that we see them. The pyramid texts are essentially the precursor to the Book of the Dead. They were spells for the king's afterlife to guide him through to eternal life and to ensure his continued survival, even if their funerary cult ceased operations. Essentially, this was your afterlife failsafe, your afterlife insurance, shall we say. And this trend continued throughout the rest of ancient Egyptian history with the coffin texts, which were similar, but on a coffin instead of a pyramid. And then, of course, we get the oh-so-famous Book of the Dead. This right here is the oldest, smallest, and best preserved body of religious writing from the Egyptian Old Kingdom. This is a big deal and deserves many points. There are 283 spells on here total out of at least 1,000 that we know of. Also, we have this beautiful blue and gold ceiling in the burial chamber that becomes synonymous for royal tombs. Okay, Unas, you are very unassuming from the outside, but because of what's inside, like all the people, we don't judge a book by its cover. Unas is gonna get a 7 minimum. He should be getting an 8, but because of the outside, he gets a 7. We've made it to the 6th dynasty, everyone, and here we are at the Pyramid of Teti. We're still in Saqqara, and we have a very smooth-sided pyramid this time. Unfortunately, this one really does just look like a big sandy hill. It's not very impressive on the outside, but as we saw with Unas, let's see what's inside this bad boy, because that's where the treat is. The inner chambers and corridors are very well preserved in Teti's pyramid. Let's go in, shall we? Ooh, we got more pyramid texts. What a trendsetter Unas was. Just look at this detail. The star ceiling, the sharp relief of the glyphs. It is absolutely covered. And you know, I love a good vaulted ceiling as well. Wow, look at that sarcophagus, it's huge! Apparently it's unfinished and made of greywack again, and this is also the first time that a royal sarcophagus contains inscriptions etched onto it. That's pretty cool, you guys. The pyramid has been looted, but archaeologists were able to find some stone materials like mace heads with Teti's name on it, as well as one of his canopic jars. All right, what's the height? 52.5 meters. Decent. Again, we have this scenario of a stepped core and a fill of stone. So the limestone layer, once it was removed, this is where we get that slumped, crumbling pile of sand. All right, I think we're gonna have to give this one, oh, the ceiling is so pretty. We're giving it a 5 because of the outside, but the inside really just brings that score right up there. Maybe even a 5.5. The pyramid texts are just so beautiful on this one. Moving along to the Pyramid of Merenre, still in the 6th dynasty, still in Saqqara. Its ancient name translates to Merenre's beauty shines, or the perfection of Merenre appears. Unfortunately, today it appears as mostly ruins and looks like a sad heap of brown sugar. This pyramid would have been 52.5 meters high back in the day, so 173 feet. There's just so little of this pyramid left that there's barely any information accessible on it. There are burial chambers, which is great, and inside it was a sarcophagus decorated with polychrome relief. The ceiling of the burial chamber was also covered with stars, which makes it a legit kingly pyramid. There are no images of this. All I've got literally is a heap of sand. I'm giving it a 1 just based on its outside. Sorry, not sorry. Pepi II, please give us something to work with after that previous one. Ooh, we have more of a light brown sugar block. It looks like something I'd put in my tea, in a good way. This is the final full pyramid complex to be built in ancient Egypt. We're in southern Saqqara here. Man, everyone talks about Giza this and Giza that, but I think Saqqara beats it, just based on sheer number of pyramids alone. So on the outside, it once had 6 steps to make it a true pyramid. Limestone was used to fill in the gaps between the steps, and then this was covered again with that lovely Tura limestone cladding. It would have been a little over 52 meters, which seems like a sweet spot for these pyramid builders of this time. Ah, but here is where we get into the nitty-gritty. Excavations revealed that the construction quality was inconsistent and caused some serious serious structural issues. The cladding allegedly threatened to crack at the base, break off, and collapse under its own weight. The ancient architects did see this apparently and responded by building a wall all the way around the pyramid under the cladding to act essentially as a buttress. But in the process of building that wall, they destroyed the north chapel because they needed the stone. On the bright side, the reuse of the chapel stone means that archaeologists were able to recover all of the reliefs that initially covered the walls of the north chapel. I think, semantically speaking, this means that they are officially part of the pyramid, so we can talk about them. They do look very nice. There are some great large figures, some fantastic hieroglyphs. What's going on in the substructure now? Ooh, yes, more pyramid texts. We know how I feel about those. There's a massive vault of stone blocks in the burial chamber with a painted blue ceiling with gold stars. Classic. Amazing. And a palace facade? Say less. What a decoration. Ooh, okay. We have a historical event documentation inside. Hello. So the Pyramid of Pepi II has this bit in his pyramid text referring to the two-tailed comet Hale-bopp. It's also known as the Great Comet of 1997, and its previous appearance would have been about 2216 BCE. This brings us right to the end of Pepi II's reign. Pepi II and I were both alive to witness this, though I didn't actually see it because I was 5. But I hope he did. Inside, we do have a sarcophagus made out of greywack, and all 4 sides are engraved with hieroglyphs, and it is beautiful. But it does show the prep guidelines the artisans would have used on it when making it, so I might have to dock it a bit there. The lid is also unfinished, which makes us all wonder... Yes, it does appear that things were completed in a hurry and many parts of the complex were left unfinished, like the funerary chamber decorations. Which is weird because Pepi II reigned for a very long time, so they had ample opportunity to get all of this done. Maybe he was just too busy stargazing and left it late, or thought he would live forever, so he just delayed the whole building project. I'm gonna have to give you... You see, we've got this historical documentation, which definitely ups it a bit. The outside is a lump of sugar. We have the stone chapel reliefs as well that we can include. We'll give it a 5. Solid 5 as well. Now we are jumping way far ahead in time, all the way to the 12th dynasty. So think circa 1975 BCE. Crazy gap in time. I know. This is where we see a resurgence in pyramid building. We are fresh out of the first intermediate period, there's a new influx of stability and wealth, and pharaohs are hearkening back to the Old Kingdom. Maybe to reclaim legitimacy? Doesn't matter right now, because all we are here to do is judge. This is the Pyramid of Amenemhat I, the founder of the 12th dynasty. It was built at Lisht, and we've got this resurrection of the same approximate size of Old Kingdom pyramids. When it was completed, it would have been 55 meters high, and oh my days, Amenemhat actually stole some limestone from the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, Unas, and Pepi. Stealing from the forefathers. I don't know how I feel about that. What's going on inside? Okay, so we have some dissenting slopes with granite plugs that could have been designed as a security trap to deter tomb robbers. Very cool. Unfortunately, it does appear that the tomb was robbed anyways in the second intermediate period. Even though we tried to bring pyramids back, Amenemhat I wasn't going to be bringing back craftsmanship, unfortunately. It was very poorly made, and all that remains now is a sandy hill. You can still see the entrance pretty well though. Unfortunately, the internal passageways are flooded with groundwater and no exploration inside has taken place from what I can see, so all I can go off of is the exterior here, and because of that, it gets a 2. It's got some height, you can see the entrance, but that's all it's got going for it. Sticking close to his father's pyramid in Lisht, we have the Pyramid of Senusret I, the successor of Amenemhet I. We're going a bit taller here, 61.25 meters high when it was completed, and we have a new, never-before-seen method of pyramid construction. Very exciting. Let me see if I can explain this properly. So 4 stone walls were built radiating from the center of the pyramid, and they steadily decreased in size the higher up they were placed. This created 8 sections like a star, and then they were subdivided by 3 more walls that split the pyramid into 32 different units. These were then filled in with slabs of stone and debris and created like an exoskeleton of a structure that was then covered in limestone. This doesn't seem very efficient, does it? And that's because it wasn't. There were allegedly stability problems. Don't have to be an expert pyramid builder to tell you that. But I do have to give Senusret I big kudos for going out on a limb, innovating, and trying something new. Even though I'm sure it probably wasn't his idea. But what is cool and a bit unusual is that there are still some remnants for the ramps used to construct this pyramid. But there's also shoddy finishing work. So too much effort for this new flashy building style and not enough effort on what really counts. I personally cannot see any evidence of this snazzy new building technique with what's left, unfortunately, so I gotta dock points off there. And there's no info about what's inside. Sorry, Senusret, we shot for the moon and had an Apollo 11 disaster here. I fear, you know what, I'll give you a 2 because you tried something new, even though I can't see it. Let's see if Senusret II is any better at building pyramids in comparison to Senusret I. We're building at a new location, El Lahun, but still firmly in the 12th dynasty. Oh, and we have a mud brick pyramid built on top of a yellow limestone outcrop to anchor the core and to reduce construction time and cost. Very interesting. Height, okay, it was 48.65 meters tall, not too bad, and it would have been encased in beautiful Tura limestone that unfortunately was plundered by none other than Ramses II in the 19th dynasty for his own projects. Ramses II did that a lot. He was a very pompous man and liked to steal a lot of things. Oh, but to be different, it was capped off with a black granite pyramidion. Fashion. Color blocking. I respect it. But I have questions about mud brick because, like, rain and things. This doesn't seem very practical for an everlasting monument, in my opinion. Most domestic buildings and even ancient Egyptian royal palaces were built out of mud brick, and that's why we don't have much evidence for them today. Oh, okay. Apparently the pyramid was surrounded by a slope sand-filled trench to absorb rainwater and protect it from flooding. Okay, fair. They thought about that. Very good. Tourists can go inside this one. That's fun. And Senusret II thought of something different here. Not weird and unnecessary different like Senusret I, but interesting different. The passageway to his substructure and funerary chamber are actually hidden beneath a princess's tomb instead of the usual chapel it was placed under. Very sneaky. Very stealth of you, sir. All in the hopes of protecting his tomb from grave robbers. But, as we know, even the best laid plans. I hope the princess still got a really nice tomb, though, because this doesn't seem very fair. Inside the substructure, we do have a few basic pottery finds, but nothing significant. In the burial chamber proper, there was a fragment of a wooden coffin and a green scarab, but that's it. There's a well room. Oh, well, okay. No one knows why this is here, though. Maybe to measure groundwater, which makes sense because we're working with mud brick here. Everything inside is lined with limestone except for the burial chamber that has red granite inside. He does like to have pops of color here and there, doesn't he? We've got a very well-made red granite sarcophagus, too. I like it. Honestly, all of these tunnels look fantastic, and I want to go inside and run around. And we have some human remains. There are the bones of a human leg found that have been ascribed to Senusret II. We're gonna have to give this one a much higher mark. I like the passages. I like the pops of color. I'm gonna give it a 6. You can always tell when you're looking at Senusret III. How? Because of them big floppy ears. I love them so much. This time we are at Dashur for his pyramid, and this one is also a mud brick core. It kind of looks like a roller coaster or a wild dirt bike track with that big dip in the middle there. Inside, the tunnels look a little bit spooky. I don't know how I feel about heading down there. Being in this tunnel would definitely make me start to question if the mummy's curse was in fact real. Even looking from the outside, it feels as if something was sucked down into the depths of the underworld. We've got what they're calling a hypogeum underneath this pyramid. Wait, and there's like underground passageways that connect the main pyramid to the other 4 pyramids and tombs? This is madness! Oh, and creepy graffiti that has been claimed to be made by grave robbers. This is just a very scary one. There's a granite sarcophagus, and inside the burial chamber, archaeologists found a dagger and some pottery. Again, very cursy. Now the sarcophagus was empty, and it's possible that Senusret III was never buried here because he also had a tomb in Abydos built. And that is all she wrote, my friend, on that one. It would have been 78 meters high in its completion, so pretty tall, but given the spooky factor of it, oh, it's just really scary tunnels. A 5, because you can see the shape of the true pyramid. We've got some interesting tunnels inside and the spooky graffiti, so it definitely appeals to someone, just not to me. All right, we are back with fun pyramid names. I was missing those. This is the Pyramid of Amenemhat III, also known as the Black Pyramid. We're getting into a bit of a spooky streak here. We are in Dashur, and it's a bit of a throwback to the Meidum squarey step pyramid way back when in the early days of the pyramids. The name, the Black Pyramid, came from its dark, decaying appearance as this rubble mound. Very ominous. This is 100% the spooky pyramid that shows up in the thriller adventure novel. This is the first pyramid to house both the deceased king and his queens, and I can't decide whether we love the equality or if this is a bit mean, because the queens used to get their own pyramids, and now they're sharing space with a boy. I guess it depends on how much you like your husband and all of the other queens, doesn't it? It would have originally been 75 meters high. Here we go. We've got more ambition and height in the 12th dynasty. I like it. This one is also made of mud brick and encased in limestone, and I still don't approve of it because look what happens. You get the spooky, ominous name because you end up decaying like crazy. You've done this to yourself. Oh man, it was also built on clay that couldn't support its weight, and it began to sink. Oh, come on, Amenemhet. Did we not learn anything from Senefru's bent pyramid? That one is only like 1.5 kilometers away, so you definitely would have been able to see what was happening right in front of your face. Now, the Pyramidion is quite spectacular, but because we haven't been looking at many other ones, I'm not going to include it in the scoring. I know. But just take this moment to appreciate the craftsmanship here. Now, the substructure has a bunch of complicated passages, and there is a king's section and a queen's section. The king's section has a sarcophagus that was carved to imitate the outer wall or part of Djoser's pyramid, a complex at Saqqara, so that's quite fun. Unfortunately, the queen's section was broken into and looted, so maybe they should have gotten their own pyramids. There are also 4 other burial chambers. Wow, this was like a tomb apartment in this pyramid. The sinking of the pyramid started to crush the chambers underneath, and the builders tried to fix the problem by installing support beams and walls to stop it, but it did not work, and the pyramid was abandoned. There is some evidence of this pyramid being restored about 100 years later by another king when he and his princess were buried within the enclosure, so at least it was cared for a little bit. Even then, too many structural deficiencies, my man. You could have avoided a lot of this. We've still got some height, but that's all it really has going for it. You didn't make one for your queens. I'm gonna give you a 4. The next pyramid is also Amenemhat III's pyramid. This is the Pyramid of Hawara. He built a second one. Go figure. Not like he could have messed up the first one anymore. So hopefully he's learned from his mistakes from that one. This one is officially believed to be his final resting place, and it does look quite blobby, but it is definitely in better shape than the Black Pyramid, so we have to give him points for that. We did not change from the mud brick center though, so that's a strike for personal growth. Of course, most of the limestone that it was faced with was pillaged, and now it looks like just one big blobby mud brick slab, though it did used to stand at an impressively average 58 meters high. Now, the Hawara pyramid is famous because of its quote-unquote labyrinth that was essentially a collection of complex buildings and galleries and courtyards. Herodotus called it that. It's not been excavated, and it was actually demolished in antiquity, so I'm not going to go into it. I think a lot of esoteric theories have popped up about this one as well, and we do not have time to get into any of that today. Internally, into the substructure, there was a 21-ton trapdoor, which is fun, but of course, it had already been opened and robbed when we found that. Not even 20 tons of stone can stop a determined thief. Oh wait, there were trick passages to fool the robbers, and there were 2 of them. Oh, that's so sneaky. I love it. The real burial chamber was even more concealed and lay between two different trick shafts. Amenemhat meant business here with the trickery. Alas, when it was being excavated, it was noted that none of these trapdoors or even the wooden doors that were made were ever slid into place or closed. You can never find good help, can you? This man formulated the best pyramid tomfoolery out there, only to have it foiled by negligence and forgetfulness. I feel bad for him, honestly, I do. In the burial chamber, a bead of lapis lazuli was found, as well as burned bone fragments, burned wood, and charcoal. The prevailing theory for all of this is that tomb robbers potentially burned the wooden coffins and the mummy of Amenemhat III, maybe to get all of the gilding that was on the wood. I'll give him a 5. He improved slightly from the last one, and he had some fun. Last but certainly not least, we have the Pyramid of Ahmose. This is from Ahmose I, which is from around 1550 BCE, which means we have traversed a full 1,000 years of pyramid history in one video. We've also now jumped to the beginning of the 18th dynasty. This one is the most famous dynasty, the one that you've probably heard the most about with the pharaohs, but don't forget that we started all the way back in Dynasty 3. Look how far we've come. We are in Abydos, and this is the very last royal pyramid ever to be built in Egypt. All of Ahmose's successors were like, you know what? These big, conspicuous mounds that show off our power and wealth keep getting robbed, so maybe we should rethink this whole pyramid thing if we want to keep our tombs safe. And then they went and built other things, and you know what? Good on them. Finally making some change after 1,000 years. The Pyramid of Ahmose is also the only royal pyramid to have been built from the beginning as a cenotaph, which is essentially an empty grave or monument rather than an actual tomb. Today, well, it looks like most of these later pyramids. It's nothing more than a shallow hill that's like 10 meters high, and it would take you less than a few minutes to climb. Not that I'm saying you should climb any monuments. At its original height, it would have reached 45 meters tall, so all in all, it was a bit smaller than your box standard pyramid. But it does appear that it would have been much steeper than the others we've looked at in this episode, with a 60-degree slope. We don't actually know where Ahmose was buried, but his mummy was found in the royal cache at Deir el-Bahri, along with many other royal mummies. The pyramid was made of a rubble and sand core and was then clad in limestone, but there is no structural support, which is why it's nothing but a bump in the road today. Is there a substructure? Oh my god, no! This is the only one of the large Egyptian pyramids to not have a substructure. This is wild, but it makes sense because it's a cenotaph. The rubble core is just so loose anyways that I doubt building anything underneath would have been remotely safe for anyone. Well, it doesn't have a substructure, nor was it a tomb, so what does that mean for the final scoring? Well, it's not really a tough one because obviously it's a lump. Sorry, Ahmose, you're getting a 1. It's not a real tomb. You didn't do a very good job. Wow, all right, we have made it to the end of the list. Those are all of the ranked pyramids. What do you think of my rankings? Did you agree with some? Did you disagree with others? Let me know in the comments. Are there any other archaeological things you want me to rate? If so, let me know because I love to judge. Again, this is all subjective. We have some facts, but do not take my ranking as gospel. Think for yourselves, please. And do actually read up about the pyramids, all of the pyramids, because they are amazing. There are so many from all around the world, and they are just fantastic feats of human ingenuity. That's all for today, friends. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. I'm gonna go look at something flat and not pointy to just come down from this video. But as always, stay dirty, my friends.